The unlikely guardian. Stella's paws sank into the red Martian soil as she trotted along the perimeter of Outpost Zeta 9. The border collie's enhanced senses, a gift from her human creators, scanned the desolate landscape for any signs of danger. It had been 3 years since the last supply ship had visited the remote research station, and Stella knew her duty was more crucial than ever. As the primary security unit for the outpost, Stella was no ordinary dog. Her intelligence rivaled that of her human companions, and her body had been augmented with advanced cybernetics. A neural implant allowed her to interface directly with the outpost's systems, while reinforced bones and synthetic muscle fibers gave her strength and agility far beyond that of a normal canine. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the rust-colored plains. Stella's ears perked up as she detected an anomaly. A faint, high-pitched whine that didn't match any of the usual sounds of the Martian evening. She turned her head, pinpointing the source of the noise. With cautious steps, Stella approached a small crater about half a kilometer from the outpost's main dome. The whining grew louder, accompanied by a strange, pulsing glow emanating from within the depression. Stella's cybernetic eyes zoomed in, revealing a sight that made her freeze in disbelief. There, nestled in the center of the crater, was a small egg-shaped pod. Its metallic surface shimmered with an otherworldly iridescence, and hairline cracks were spreading across its shell. As Stella watched, a piece of the pod fell away, and a tiny fur-covered limb poked out. Stella's training kicked in. She opened a communication channel to Dr. Elena Reyes, the outpost's lead xenobiologist. "Dr. Reyes, this is Stella. I've encountered an unknown alien object approximately 500 meters southeast of the main dome. It appears to be hatching." There was a moment of silence before Elena's excited voice crackled through Stella's implant. "Stella, this is incredible. Can you describe what you're seeing?" Before Stella could respond, the pod split open entirely. 2 small, mewling creatures tumbled out onto the Martian soil. They were unlike anything Stella had ever seen. Their bodies were covered in a fine, iridescent fur that shifted colors in the fading light. Their heads were disproportionately large, with enormous, liquid black eyes that blinked up at the Martian sky. "Dr. Reyes," Stella reported, her voice steady despite her amazement. "The pod has opened. There are 2 infants, I believe. They appear to be some form of felid, but unlike any Earth species I'm familiar with." Elena's voice was breathless with excitement. "Stella, this is a monumental discovery. We need to bring them into the lab immediately for study. Can you transport them safely?" Stella hesitated. Her programming urged her to follow orders, to bring these alien creatures in for research. But as she looked at the tiny, helpless beings before her, something else stirred within her. An instinct older than her cybernetic enhancements, deeper than her training. "Dr. Reyes," Stella said slowly, "I don't think that would be wise. These infants appear extremely fragile. Moving them could be dangerous. But Stella, we can't just leave them out there. The temperature will drop below freezing in a few hours." Stella made a decision. "I'll stay with them, Dr. Reyes. My body can provide warmth, and I can monitor their condition. We can reassess in the morning." There was a long pause before Elena responded. "All right, Stella. I trust your judgment. But be careful. We have no idea what these creatures are capable of." As the communication channel closed, Stella approached the alien infants. They moved softly, their tiny limbs flailing in the light Martian gravity. With infinite gentleness, Stella lay down beside them, curling her body around the small forms. The larger of the 2 cubs, Stella found herself thinking of them as cubs, despite their alien nature, nuzzled against her fur. Its sibling let out a tiny sneeze, sending a spark of bioluminescence rippling across its coat. Stella felt something shift within her core programming. Her primary directive had always been to protect the outpost and its human inhabitants. But as she gazed down at these helpless alien beings, she knew her purpose had expanded. She would protect these cubs, nurture them, keep them safe from those who might wish to study or exploit them. As the Martian night deepened and the stars emerged in the ink-black sky, Stella made a silent vow. She would be more than just a guardian to these strange, beautiful creatures. She would be their mother. The hours passed, and Stella remained vigilant. Her enhanced senses monitored the cubs' vital signs, which seemed to stabilize as they nestled against her warm body. She observed their rapid eye movements, wondering what dreams might fill the minds of alien infants. As the first light of dawn crept over the Martian horizon, Stella heard the approaching hum of a rover. Dr. Rice had come to investigate, no doubt eager to study the mysterious new life forms. Stella felt a surge of protectiveness course through her cybernetic systems. She knew that the discovery of alien life would be revolutionary for humanity. But as she looked down at the sleeping cubs, their tiny chests rising and falling in perfect synchronization, Stella understood that some things were more important than scientific advancement. The rover crested a nearby hill, and Stella saw Dr. Rice's face, filled with wonder and excitement, peering through the windshield. The border collie took a deep breath, preparing herself for the conversation to come. She would protect these cubs, even if it meant going against her programming, even if it meant defying the humans she had been created to serve. In the harsh, unforgiving landscape of Mars, an unlikely family had been born, a family that would change the course of two worlds. As Dr. Rice approached, clipboard in hand and eyes wide with anticipation, Stella stood, positioning herself between the scientist and the sleeping cubs. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear: the adventure was only beginning. Growing pains. 6 months had passed since Stella had discovered the alien cubs on the barren Martian landscape. In that time, the remote outpost of Zeta-9 had transformed from a quiet research station into a hive of activity and secrecy. Stella padded silently through the corridors of the habitat module she now shared with her adopted children. Her cybernetic eye scanned for any signs of the cubs, whom she had named Nova and Orion. At 3 months old, they had already grown to the size of adult Earth lions, their iridescent fur shimmering with bioluminescent patterns that pulsed with their emotions. A crash from the makeshift nursery sent Stella sprinting down the hallway. She burst through the door to find Nova perched atop a toppled bookshelf, her large, luminous eyes wide with a mixture of mischief and guilt. "Nova," Stella said, her voice firm but gentle, "what have we discussed about gravity manipulation inside the habitat?" The alien cub's ears flattened against her head, and a ripple of blue embarrassment flowed across her fur. "Sorry, Mother," Nova replied telepathically, her thoughts easily picked up by Stella's neural implant. "I was trying to reach the data pad on the top shelf." Stella sighed, a very human gesture she had picked up over the years. "You could have asked for help, little one. Now please help me clean up this mess before Dr. Rice arrives for your checkup." As if on cue, there was a knock at the main airlock. Stella's fur bristled slightly. While Dr. Elena Rice had been instrumental in keeping the cub's existence a secret from Earth, her scientific curiosity often clashed with Stella's protective instincts. "Come in, Doctor," Stella called out, her voice carrying through the habitat's communication system. Dr. Rice entered, her eyes immediately drawn to the overturned bookshelf and the sheepish-looking Nova. "Another gravity incident?" she asked, a small smile playing at the corners of her mouth. Stella nodded. "They're getting stronger every day. It's becoming increasingly difficult to contain their abilities." Elena's expression grew serious. "That's actually what I wanted to discuss with you, Stella. The latest data from their bioscans is, well, it's unprecedented." Orion chose that moment to phase through the wall of the nursery, his body momentarily becoming translucent before solidifying again. "Mother, is it time for our lessons?" he asked, his mental voice tinged with excitement. Dr. Rice jumped, still not entirely used to the cub's ability to pass through solid matter. "This is exactly what I mean," she said, gesturing to Orion. "Their powers are developing at an exponential rate. We need to consider the implications." Stella felt a surge of protectiveness. What exactly are you suggesting, Doctor? Elena took a deep breath. I think it's time we informed Earth about their existence. We're dealing with potentially the most significant scientific discovery in human history, and we're woefully underprepared to handle it. The words hung in the air, heavy with implications. Stella's mind raced, calculating potential outcomes and threats. She had known this day would come, but she had hoped for more time. No, Stella said firmly, surprising even herself with the force of her response. Informing Earth would put Nova and Orion in grave danger. They would become subjects of endless experiments, or worse, be seen as a threat to be eliminated. Dr. Rice ran a hand through her hair, frustration evident in her voice. Stella, I understand your concern, but we can't keep this secret forever. Their power is growing beyond our ability to control or comprehend. What happens when they're fully mature? We have a responsibility to. She was cut off by a sudden tremor that shook the entire habitat. Warning lights flashed, and the low rumble of the outpost's emergency systems filled the air. What was that? Elena gasped, steadying herself against the wall. Stella's cybernetic systems interfaced with the outpost's sensors, and what she saw filled her with dread. It's Orion, she said, her voice tight with worry. He's outside the habitat, and he's not alone. Through the external cameras, Stella could see Orion standing in the Martian desert, his fur crackling with energy. Facing him were three figures in sleek, alien environmental suits. Their designs were unlike anything in Earth's database. Nova, stay here with Dr. Reyes, Stella commanded, already moving towards the airlock. I'm going out there. But Mother, Nova protested. No arguments, Stella said firmly. I need you to protect the doctor if anything goes wrong. As Stella cycled through the airlock, her mind whirred with possibilities. Who were these aliens? How had they found the cubs? And most importantly, what did they want? The Martian wind whipped around Stella as she bounded across the red soil towards Orion. As she drew closer, she could hear the aliens' thoughts, a cacophony of alien concepts and emotions that her neural implants struggled to translate. Orion, Stella called out both verbally and mentally. Step away from them. Come back to the habitat now. But Orion stood his ground, his young face set in a determined expression that reminded Stella so much of her own. No, Mother, he replied. They'd come for us. They say we're not meant to be here, that we're too dangerous to be left with humans. The lead alien turned to face Stella, its environmental suit shimmering with technology far beyond Earth's capabilities. When it spoke, the words appeared directly in Stella's mind. Guardian of the young ones, the alien's thoughts resonated with a mixture of respect and urgency. You have cared for them well, but you cannot understand the power they will one day wield. For the safety of your world and ours, they must come with us. Stella planted herself firmly between Orion and the aliens, her enhanced muscles tensed and ready for action. In that moment, she was no longer just a security unit or even an adopted mother. She was the last line of defense between her family and the unknown. I don't know who you are, Stella growled, her thoughts broadcast on all frequencies, but you will not take my children. They stay with me. The alien suit began to glow, energy building around its form. I'm afraid, it communicated, a note of sadness in its mental voice, that you don't have a choice. As tensions rose on the Martian surface, Nova watched anxiously from inside the habitat, her fur rippling with waves of concern. Dr. Rice stood beside her, fingers flying over a data pad as she tried to make sense of the readings pouring in from the outpost's sensors. Nova, Elena said softly, I need you to tell me everything you know about where you came from. It might be the key to resolving this peacefully. Nova turned her large, expressive eyes to the human scientist. I'm not sure, she admitted, her mental voice tinged with frustration. Our memories from before Mother found us are hazy, but lately, I've been having dreams. Before Nova could continue, a blinding flash of light erupted outside the habitat. The ground shook violently, and for a moment, it seemed as if the very fabric of reality was being torn apart. When the light faded and the dust settled, Dr. Reyes gasped at the sight before them, where Stella, Orion, and the alien visitors had been standing. There was now only a shimmering, portal-like anomaly hovering above the Martian soil. Nova's fur crackled with energy, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and determination. "I have to go after them," she said, already moving towards the airlock. Dr. Reyes reached out to stop her, but her hand passed right through Nova's now intangible form. "Nova, wait. We don't know what that portal is or where it leads." But Nova was beyond hearing. With a final, apologetic look at the human who had helped raise her, she phased through the habitat wall and raced towards the anomaly. As Nova approached the swirling vortex, memories long buried began to surface. She remembered a world of crystalline spires and oceans of living light. She remembered a war that threatened to tear the universe apart, and a desperate plan to hide the next generation of her kind. With a deep breath, Nova leaped into the portal. In that moment, she was no longer just a curious cub or a scientific marvel. She was a daughter of two worlds, determined to bring her family home. The portal pulsed once, twice, and then collapsed in on itself, leaving behind a desolate Martian landscape and a stunned Dr. Elena Reyes. As the scientist stared at the empty space where an alien family had vanished, she realized that humanity's understanding of the universe had just been irrevocably changed. In the habitat's communication room, ignored in the chaos of the moment, a light began to blink on the long-range transmitter. A message from Earth was coming through, and with it, the dawn of a new era for humanity. The story of Stella and her adopted alien cubs was far from over. Across the stars, a new chapter was about to begin, one that would challenge the very definitions of family, humanity, and what it means to belong. Rebellion and revelation. The crystalline spires of Luminara gleamed under the light of 3 moons, their surfaces refracting rainbows across the alien cityscape. Stella, her cybernetic systems struggling to process the sheer alienness of her surroundings, padded cautiously through streets that seemed to be alive with bioluminescent energy. Beside her, Orion moved with a newfound confidence, his iridescent fur pulsing with patterns that matched the city's rhythm. "Mother," he communicated telepathically, "I remember this place. This is where we came from." Stella's artificial heart clenched with a mixture of pride and sorrow. In the 3 Earth years since their arrival on this distant world, her cubs had grown and changed in ways she could never have imagined. They now towered over her, their bodies rippling with barely contained cosmic energy. "I'm glad you found your home, little one," Stella replied, the old term of endearment feeling bittersweet now. "But we need to focus on finding Nova and figuring out why we were brought here." As if in response to her thoughts, a group of tall, elegantly proportioned aliens approached. Their bodies seemed to be composed of living light, shifting and flowing like liquid starlight. The leader, distinguished by intricate patterns swirling across its form, addressed them in a symphony of telepathic harmonies. "Welcome, guardians of the Lumina." The aliens' thoughts resonated in their minds. "I am Zephyr, High Counselor of Luminara. We have long awaited your return." Orion stepped forward, his posture regal and composed. "High Counselor, we seek answers. Why were we sent to Mars as infants? Where is my sister, Nova? And why have you brought us here now?" Zephyr's form rippled with what Stella interpreted as sadness. "Your questions are valid, young one. Come, there is much to discuss." As they followed Zephyr through the living city, Stella's enhanced senses picked up undercurrents of tension. Whispered thoughts and furtive glances from the Luminaran citizens suggested that not everyone was pleased with their arrival. They were led to a vast chamber within the tallest spire, its walls adorned with what appeared to be a 3-dimensional star map of the galaxy. Nova was there, engaged in intense conversation with a group of Luminarans. When she saw Stella and Orion, she bounded over, her fur crackling with excited energy. "Mother, brother," Nova exclaimed, nuzzling them both. "I'm so glad you're safe. There's so much to tell you." Before she could continue, Zephyr raised a tendril of light, commanding attention. Guardians, it is time you learned the truth of your origin and the grave threat that faces not just Luminara, but the entire galaxy. The star map shimmered, focusing on a dark, roiling mass at the edge of the galaxy. This is the Void, Zephyr explained, an ancient enemy that consumes all in its path. For millennia, we Luminarans have stood as a bastion against its advance, using our mastery of cosmic energy to hold it at bay. The map shifted, showing the solar system. But our power is waning. In desperation, we sought to create a new generation of guardians, ones who could harness the primal energies of younger worlds. You, Nova and Orion, are the result of this endeavor. Stella felt a surge of protective anger. You sent infants across the galaxy as some sort of cosmic experiment. She growled, her mechanical legs tensing. Zephyr's form dimmed slightly. It was a choice born of desperation. We had no way of knowing if you would survive, let alone thrive. Your presence here, and the bonds you formed, are beyond our wildest hopes. Nova and Orion exchanged glances, their fur rippling with a mixture of emotions. So what happens now? Orion asked, his mental voice tinged with uncertainty. Before Zephyr could respond, alarms blared throughout the chamber. The star map flared to life, showing a massive disturbance at the edge of Luminaran space. The Void. Zephyr's thoughts radiated urgency. It's attacking earlier than we anticipated. Young Guardians, we need your help. Your unique blend of Luminaran power and Earth adaptability may be our only hope. Stella stepped forward, her cybernetic eye glowing fiercely. If you think I'm letting my cubs face this threat alone, you're sorely mistaken. Where they go, I go. Nova and Orion flanked their adoptive mother, their massive forms dwarfing her, but their postures clearly protective. We face this together, Nova declared, her thoughts echoing with determination. As the Luminarans prepared for battle, Stella accessed her long-range communications array, a feature she hadn't used since leaving Mars. To her surprise, a connection established almost instantly. Stella. Dr. Elena Rice's voice crackled through, filled with relief and excitement. Thank God. We've been trying to reach you for years. Where are you? What's happening? In that moment, Stella realized that the fate of two worlds, perhaps the entire galaxy, now rested on the shoulders of her unlikely family. With quick, efficient words, she briefed Elena on the situation. Dr. Rice, Stella said, her voice firm with resolve, I need you to listen carefully. Earth needs to be prepared. If we fail here, the Void will come for your world next. As alarms blared and Luminaran ships rose into the alien sky, Stella, Nova, and Orion stood united, ready to face an enemy beyond imagination. They were no longer just a dog and her adopted cubs. They were the last line of defense for two worlds, a family forged in the stars. The battle that followed was unlike anything Stella's advanced systems could have prepared her for. Luminaran ships, sleek constructs of living light, engaged with roiling tendrils of absolute darkness that seemed to devour everything they touched. Nova and Orion, their powers now fully awakened, soared through the chaos, their bodies trailing cosmic fire as they tore through void entities with terrifying efficiency. Stella, integrated into a Luminaran battle platform, coordinated their efforts with a mixture of Earth military tactics and her own unique perspective. Her canine instincts, honed by years of protecting her family, proved invaluable in predicting the Void's erratic movements. As the battle raged, Stella noticed a pattern in the Void's attacks. Nova, Orion, she called out telepathically. There's a focal point to their assault. If we can disrupt it, we might be able to push them back. The cubs acknowledged, their minds brushing against hers with a mixture of determination and love. They moved in perfect synchronization, weaving between void tendrils and Luminaran energy blasts. Stella's heart swelled with pride as she watched them, marveling at the incredible beings they had become. But pride turned to horror as Nova and Orion reached the heart of the Void's forces. A massive, pulsating entity emerged, its form a nightmarish amalgamation of darkness and corrupted light. With a psychic scream that tore through the minds of everyone on the battlefield, it lashed out at the cubs. "No!" Stella howled, pushing her battle platform to its limits as she raced towards her children. Time seemed to slow as she saw Nova and Orion enveloped by the Void entity's attack. In that moment, something extraordinary happened. The bond between Stella and her cubs, forged through years of love and trust, transcended the physical. Stella felt her consciousness expanding, merging with Nova and Orion's in a blinding flash of interspecies unity. Together, they became something entirely new, a being of Earth's tenacity, Mars' harsh beauty, and Luminara's cosmic power. Through Stella's eyes, hardened by a life of service and love, they saw the Void for what it truly was, not an enemy to be destroyed, but a force out of balance, consumed by its own fear and loneliness. With this newfound understanding, they reached out not with weapons, but with empathy. The Void entity recoiled, then slowly, cautiously, responded. Communication flowed between them, an exchange of concepts and emotions beyond any single species' comprehension. As the united consciousness of Stella, Nova, and Orion interfaced with the Void, a ripple of change spread across the battlefield. The darkness began to recede, not in defeat, but in a mutual agreement of coexistence. When it was over, when the skies above Luminara cleared and the last of the Void entities retreated, Stella found herself standing on shaking legs between her cubs. Nova and Orion, their fur shimmering with residual cosmic energy, nuzzled her gently. "Mother," Nova's thoughts whispered, filled with awe and love, "you saved us. You saved everyone." Orion's mental voice joined in, strong and proud. "You showed us the true power of connection, of family. It's not about the species or the planet we come from. It's about the bonds we forge." Zephyr approached, its luminous form bowing in deep respect. "Guardians, you have done the impossible. You've shown us a path forward that we never could have imagined. The balance you've achieved between your Earth roots and Luminaran heritage, it's the key to our future." As the Luminarans celebrated around them, Stella's thoughts turned to Earth, to the tiny outpost on Mars where their journey had begun. She realized that their adventure was far from over. They had a new mission now, to bridge the gap between worlds, to show the galaxy that diversity and unity could coexist. "Dr. Reyes," Stella transmitted, her voice filled with a new sense of purpose. "Prepare Earth for a visitor. It's time for humanity to join the galactic community." As Nova and Orion curled around her, their massive forms protective and loving, Stella looked up at the alien sky. She was a dog from Earth, a mother to alien cubs, and now, improbably, a guardian of the galaxy. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she knew they would face them together, as a family. The stars twinkled above, holding the promise of new adventures, new connections, and a future where the boundaries between species and worlds were just another obstacle to overcome with love, understanding, and a little canine determination. The Galactic Embassy. The United Nations General Assembly Hall buzzed with an energy unlike anything in human history. Representatives from every nation on Earth sat in tense anticipation, their eyes fixed on the grand doors at the end of the chamber. Today, humanity would officially make first contact with an alien civilization. Dr. Elena Reyes stood at the podium, her hands trembling slightly as she adjusted her notes. As the lead scientist of the Mars outpost Zeta 9 and the primary human contact for Stella and her cubs, she had been chosen to introduce Earth's extraterrestrial visitors. "Ladies and gentlemen," Elena began, her voice steadier than she felt, "today marks a new chapter in human history. We are about to meet beings from beyond our solar system, beings who have chosen us to join a galactic community we never knew existed." The doors swung open, and a hush fell over the assembly. Stella trotted in first, her cybernetic implants gleaming under the lights. Behind her, Nova and Orion entered, their massive forms barely fitting through the doorway. Their iridescent fur rippled with patterns of greeting and reassurance, visible even to the unaided human eye. Gasps and murmurs filled the room. Some representatives leaned forward in fascination, while others shrank back in their seats. Stella, ever the protector, scanned the room for any signs of threat before nodding to Elena to continue. I present to you Stella, formerly of Earth's Canine Enhancement Program, and her adopted children, Nova and Orion of Luminara, Elena announced, her voice filled with pride and wonder. Stella stepped up to the microphone, her neural implant interfacing seamlessly with the UN's translation systems. "Greetings, people of Earth," she began, her synthesized voice resonating through the chamber. "We come before you not as conquerors or mere visitors, but as family. Earth is my home, the world that created me, while Luminara is the birthplace of my children. We stand as living proof that the bonds of love and understanding can bridge the vast distances between stars." Nova and Orion moved to flank their mother, their massive heads bowed in respect to the assembled humans. Nova's thoughts, carefully modulated to be picked up by the translation system, echoed next. "We represent a galactic society that has watched Earth for centuries, waiting for the right moment to make contact. That moment has arrived, hastened by a threat that endangers not just our worlds, but the entire galaxy." Orion continued, his mental voice strong and clear. "We've recently faced an enemy known as the Void, a force of entropy that seeks to unravel the very fabric of the universe. Through the combined strength of Luminara and cosmic power, Earth's adaptability, and the unbreakable bonds of our unlikely family, we found a way to communicate with this force, to bring balance where there was only conflict." The assembly hall was utterly silent, every human present trying to process the magnitude of what they were hearing. Stella took the moment to drive their point home. "Earth stands at a crossroads," she said, her cybernetic eye scanning the crowd. "You can choose to embrace this new reality, to join a galactic community that will challenge everything you thought you knew about the universe. Or you can choose isolation, leaving your world vulnerable to threats you can't yet comprehend. We're here to offer guidance, to help humanity take its first steps into a larger world." The UN Secretary General, recovering from his initial shock, stepped forward. "This is overwhelming," he admitted. "How can we be sure that joining this galactic community is in Earth's best interests? How do we know we can trust you?" Nova's fur rippled with patterns of understanding and patience. "A valid concern," she communicated. "We don't ask for blind trust. Instead, we propose an exchange. Allow us to establish a galactic embassy here on Earth. In return, we'll offer human representatives the chance to visit Luminara and other aligned worlds. You'll have the opportunity to see for yourselves the wonders and challenges that await." Orion's thoughts joined in, tinged with excitement. "Moreover, we're prepared to share technologies that will help Earth address its most pressing issues: clean energy, environmental restoration, medical advancements. But we'll do so gradually, allowing your societies time to adapt." The assembly erupted into a flurry of questions and exclamations. Stella, Nova, and Orion stood patiently, their unique family unit a living symbol of the potential for interspecies cooperation. As the initial furor died down, a young representative from a small island nation stood up. "I have a question," she said, her voice cutting through the chaos. "Stella, you were created by humans, yet you've adopted alien children and now represent a galactic society. How do you balance these different aspects of yourself? And what does your journey teach us about our potential place in this larger community?" Stella's tail wagged slightly, pleased by the insightful question. "My journey is a testament to the adaptability of life," she replied. "I was created to be a companion and protector for humans, but those same qualities allowed me to become a mother to beings from another world. In doing so, I've learned that the core of who we are, our capacity for love, for growth, for understanding, transcends the boundaries of species or planet." She paused, her gaze sweeping across the assembly. "Humanity's greatest strength is its diversity, its ability to face the unknown with curiosity rather than fear. Yes, there will be challenges ahead. Yes, there will be moments of confusion and even conflict. But if a dog from Earth can find a family among the stars, imagine what humanity as a whole can achieve. Nova and Orion pressed close to Stella, their enormous forms a stark visual reminder of the incredible journey that had brought them to this moment. The sight of their obvious affection, crossing the boundaries of species and worlds, seemed to resonate with the assembled humans in a way that went beyond words. The Secretary General cleared his throat, his expression a mixture of awe and determination. "I believe," he said slowly, "that we have a lot to discuss. Stella, Nova, Orion, on behalf of the United Nations and the people of Earth, we accept your proposal for a galactic embassy. Let this mark the beginning of a new era for our world." As applause filled the chamber, Stella felt a surge of pride and hope. This was just the beginning, she knew. There would be challenges ahead, cultural misunderstandings, fear of the unknown, the ever-present threat of the void. But looking up at her cubs, seeing the hope and determination in their eyes, she knew that they were ready. Together, this unlikely family would bridge the gap between worlds, showing both humanity and the larger galactic community that love, understanding, and cooperation could overcome any obstacle. As the first step on a journey that would reshape the destiny of Earth and beyond, it was a promising start. The Galactic Embassy, a testament to the power of connection across the cosmos, would soon rise as a beacon of hope and unity, and at its heart would be a family that defied all expectations: a dog, 2 alien cubs, and the limitless potential of understanding between worlds. A new frontier. 5 years had passed since the establishment of the Galactic Embassy on Earth, and the world had changed in ways few could have imagined. The sleek, crystalline spire of the embassy rose from the heart of a newly established international district, its iridescent surfaces reflecting the hopes and dreams of a humanity coming to terms with its place in a vast, complex universe. Stella sat in her office high up in the embassy, her cybernetic implants interfacing seamlessly with the advanced alien technology around her. As Earth's primary liaison to the galactic community, her days were filled with diplomatic meetings, cultural exchange programs, and the occasional interstellar crisis management. A soft chime alerted her to an incoming transmission. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing the familiar face of Dr. Elena Reyes, now the head of Earth's Scientific Research Division. "Stella," Elena greeted warmly. "I hope I'm not interrupting anything important." Stella's tail wagged slightly, a remnant of her canine nature that she had never fully suppressed. "Not at all, Elena. What's on your mind?" The scientist's expression turned serious. "We've been analyzing the data from the latest void incursion in the Andromeda Galaxy. There's something different about this one. I think you and the cubs need to see this." Stella's artificial heart quickened. "I'll gather Nova and Orion. Meet us at the embassy's central chamber in an hour." As the transmission ended, Stella reached out telepathically to her children. Despite the years that had passed, the bond between them remained as strong as ever. "Nova, Orion," she called, her thoughts tinged with urgency. "We're needed at the embassy. There's been another void incident." Within moments, she felt their responses, a mix of concern and determination that mirrored her own. They had been off-world, overseeing the integration of a newly discovered sentient species into the galactic community, but Stella knew they would drop everything for this. An hour later, Stella stood in the embassy's central chamber, a vast, circular room dominated by a holographic representation of the known universe. Nova and Orion flanked her, their massive forms dwarfing the humans and alien diplomats who had gathered for the briefing. Dr. Reyes stepped forward, her fingers dancing over a control panel. The holographic display zoomed in on a sector of the Andromeda Galaxy, where a roiling mass of darkness was visible. "As you can see," Elena began, "the void has breached the defensive perimeter we established after the last incursion. But that's not the concerning part." She tapped a few more controls, and the image shifted, revealing strange geometric patterns within the darkness. Nova leaned forward, her iridescent fur rippling with interest. Those patterns, they're not random. It's almost as if the void is trying to communicate. Orion finished, his mental voice filled with awe. Stella felt a surge of both hope and trepidation. The agreement they had reached with the void years ago had been tenuous at best, a mutual understanding to coexist rather than a true alliance. If the void was indeed attempting communication, it could change everything. "We need to respond," Stella declared, her voice firm with resolve. "Nova, Orion, are you ready for another journey?" The cubs, though they could hardly be called cubs anymore, straightened, their eyes gleaming with determination. "Always, Mother," they replied in unison. As the assembled diplomats murmured among themselves, Stella turned to address them. "Representatives of Earth and our galactic allies, we stand at another crossroads. The void, once our greatest threat, may be extending an opportunity for true understanding. We must seize this chance, not just for the safety of our worlds, but for the possibility of expanding our understanding of the universe itself." She paused, her gaze sweeping across the chamber. 5 years ago, humanity took its first steps into a larger galaxy. You've adapted to changes that would have seemed impossible a generation ago. Now, I ask for your trust once more. Allow us to make contact with the void, to explore this new frontier of communication and cooperation. The chamber erupted into a flurry of discussion. Some voices urged caution, while others pushed for immediate action. Through it all, Stella stood firm, a beacon of calm amid the storm of opinions. Finally, the Secretary General of the United Nations stepped forward. "Stella, Nova, Orion, you've guided us faithfully these past 5 years. If you believe this is the right course of action, you have Earth's full support." Stella nodded gratefully, then turned to her children. "Prepare the Luminaran ship. We leave as soon as possible." As they made their way to the embassy's launch pad, where a sleek, organic-looking Luminaran vessel awaited, Stella felt a familiar mix of excitement and apprehension. Every fiber of her enhanced being thrummed with the knowledge that they were about to embark on their most important mission yet. Nova and Orion moved in perfect sync, their massive forms graceful despite their size. As they boarded the ship, Stella marveled once again at the incredible beings they had become, a perfect blend of Luminaran cosmic power and Earthborn adaptability. As the ship hummed to life around them, its systems interfacing directly with their minds, Stella took a moment to reflect on the journey that had brought them to this point. From a lonely outpost on Mars to the heart of galactic diplomacy, from a simple security unit to the adoptive mother of 2 alien beings, her life had taken turns she could never have imagined. "Mother," Nova's thoughts brushed against her mind, warm with affection. "Are you ready?" Stella looked up at her children, her heart swelling with pride and love. "With you two by my side. Always." As the Luminaran ship rose into the Earth's atmosphere, its hull shimmering with barely contained cosmic energy, Stella felt a sense of profound rightness. They were 3 beings from different worlds, united by bonds stronger than blood or species. Together, they had already changed the course of galactic history once. Now they were setting out to do it again. The ship accelerated, leaving Earth's orbit in a blaze of light. Ahead of them lay the unknown, the mysteries of the void, the potential for a new type of understanding that crossed the boundaries of known physics and biology. It was a journey into the very nature of existence itself. But as Stella stood between her children, their thoughts and emotions intertwined in a telepathic bond that defied explanation, she knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. They were more than family, more than diplomats, more than the sum of their parts. They were explorers on the edge of a new frontier, carrying with them the hopes and dreams of countless worlds. And as the stars streaked by outside their ship, Stella felt a surge of pure joy. This was what she had been created for, what Nova and Orion had been born for, to push the boundaries of what was possible, to forge connections where none had existed before. The void awaited, its geometric patterns a tantalizing glimpse of a new form of communication. And beyond that, new worlds, new species, new challenges that would test their strength and unity. As Earth faded to a small blue dot behind them, Stella, Nova, and Orion faced the future together. A future bright with the promise of understanding, cooperation, and the enduring power of love that knew no boundaries. The universe, vast and mysterious, stretched out before them, and they were ready for whatever it might bring.